Oh, we're supposed to roll the intro first.
Well, good evening, everybody. We appreciate your time today. This is something new for us. It's something new out here on this location. If you're watching the live show, we want to say thank you very much. We've kind of been teasing this a little bit, just saying that we're going to be doing some new things, maybe being on location, visiting and hanging out with the crowd. And so that's what's happening. I am actually sitting out here at the Leonard Street Grill and Tap House in Plano. Yes, give it up, give it up. Ocala has done a good favor to partner up with us. We're located at 6205 Court Road in Plano. If you're in the area, if you're listening, you want to come in, have a little beverage, come on out. We're at the corner of Spring Creek and Court Road. This is, a great time, something we want to try to do here in the future. We got some shows lined up. We're going to have some guests sitting out here. But right now, we're just trying to work out some kinks, get some things right to make sure we can do this. If there are issues or if you're hearing different things, hey, just be patient with us, okay? Particularly on the live show. And if it's not sounding right on the recorded show, if you listen to it on your podcast channel or something of that nature, this is our dry run at this. So we're going to get into it because, man, we got a special guest. JT just gave you a sneak preview of who it was.
Oh, you weren't supposed to see that. That was an accident.
Oh, I saw it. I got my peripheral vision is still working pretty good. After you take a couple blindside shots, I guess I'll have to ask you about that if you ever got blindsided. But I did take one. I didn't want that to happen too many times. And speaking of blind shots, this is really what my talking points is going to be about tonight. So let me tell what the crowd and what we're doing here. Because a lot of them don't know. They just see me get pulled up. We didn't advertise I was going to be here. So this is the Teague podcast. I am George Teague, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys. The people that you're hearing coming through the speakers, the first one that you heard is my son James Teague, who's on vacation in Little Elm, and the guest we're going to have. You'll hear him speaking. He is Mike Farrell. He is a genius when it comes to this college football, recruiting trail, and other things as well. So the point that I was trying to get and trying to make was about the NCAA rule and the defensive player / passer rule is Rule 2-27-14-8, where it talks about basically not being able to hit someone. I'm going to read it to you here so you guys can kind of figure out if you like it. I don't know if I do. It says a defensive player is one who, because of their physical position and focus of concentration, is especially vulnerable to injury. When in question, a player is defenseless. Examples of defensive players include, but are not limited to, a player in the act of or just after throwing a pass. How about that? This includes a player in a passing posture with focus downfield. Now, I don't know about y'all, but that sounds like keep your damn hands off the quarterback. Period.
Yep.
It's just I know we got to protect players and we got to do different things to protect the quarterback, but are we going too far with this? These guys do make a lot of money. They do make the world go round. They are the ones that make it exciting. But I'm just kind of curious to see what both of you guys think. So I want to go ahead and get in there because we started a little bit late. Let's go ahead and bring in JT and our guest, Mike Farrell. Mike Farrell, man, let me tell you something. He is. If y'all haven't really looked at his Hey, man, as soon as I said something about Mike Farrell, my Twitter started blowing up. Mike, that's a good thing, right?
It is.
So I think Mike has done a tremendous job. So I'm giving you his website as soon as I get in and pull it up. Make sure you go to microsports.com and look at all the articles and stories and things that he has because he brings up a lot of great points about a lot of good things when it comes to not just SEC football or Alabama football, but his knowledge about everything. The recruiting world, what's going on, the ACC, the Big Ten. Man, I seen it all on there. And before we get going, I really want to know how you got started in this. Before you guys started talking about this quarterback rule, Mike, can you tell us what really got you going down this road of diving into college football and all the topics you covered?
Yeah, it was late 1990s. I started writing just locally. I'm in New England. So I just started to write locally, covering just one school, Boston College recruiting. There was a need for it at a magazine. I took it. I fell in love with recruiting. And then I just sort of networked my way up from there. Living in Connecticut, ESPN's down the road. I approached them in the early 2000s and said, "You're missing out on this." And we started to, I was lucky. Dave Revson from the Big Ten Network, took me under his wing, brought me on TV, and we started doing live announcements and other things and brought recruiting into the mainstream. So it started with, a small magazine, one article a month, and just grind, and work. And all of a sudden, it's 25-year career, and it seemed to get, go by pretty fast.
We thank you very much because we're always trying to look for the gurus. We're the couch potatoes that just kind of sit here and try to make it all work and give our opinions. So anytime we can have people like you actually know what they're talking about instead of people like me who's just opinionated, it means a lot. So what do you guys think? I'll go back to JT. What do you guys think about this? I know it's kind of been there already about the quarterback and all this kind of stuff, but are we getting too soft in the whole game of football, or is that just the way it's going to be? We've been talking about it for years. Is it really just going to be two-hand touch, flag football at some point, or over?
I'm waiting for him to come out with uh, some sort of explanation of that rule. I mean, you can't just put that out there. It's such a monumental change and shift in football that to just throw it out there and expect everybody to fall on board with it. I mean, there has to be an explanation. Um, whether they meant to put that language in there about the quarterback, you know, in a throwing position, not being hit. I mean, I get it, but what do you do about pump fakes? Are you not allowed to pump fake now because you're in a throwing position? Pump fakes are an extremely important part of quarterbacks, and it looks like you're going to throw. We saw Kenny Pickett last year, sort of, fake a slide.
Which they have the Kenny Pickett rule. That's a new rule.
Yeah. So now, I mean, it's really. Let's put it this way: since yeah, and I'm an old school guy. I've been around for a long time, and I try to tell people that the offensive numbers you're seeing in the NFL and in college football are different now than they have ever been because nobody's allowed to hit anybody. The defensive rules, as far as hands-on receivers for defensive backs, the ability for linebackers to hit people over the middle, targeting, everything's opened up the offenses. So now you're seeing guys that I don't think are Hall of Famers going into the Hall of Fame or will be going to the Hall of Fame at the quarterback position because of monstrous numbers. And now we're heading that way towards college. Like, if this rule is intact, Bryce Young's going to throw for 75 touchdowns. He threw for 52 last year, and you were allowed to hit him. So I'm waiting for them to walk this back a little bit. I understand after the pass is released, that's okay. You take one step and you hit him, maybe you could flag that. But while he's in a throwing position, I mean, if I'm a quarterback, I'm taking a shotgun snap and I'm in a throwing position immediately. And you can't hit me, you can't touch me, and then I'm going to do my reads, and then I'm going to throw. That's 7-on-7 football. It cannot be real what we're reading here. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what it's hitting on. Is saying that with the focus downfield, that's what the quarterback does all the time. Where else are they looking if
It's not looking behind him.
Yeah. I mean, good lord, it just I don't know. I mean, I understand that there's some violent hits, but you know what? You better find your left tackle. Cowboys, whoever else. You better find you somebody to protect your guys. Um, and the quarterback needs to be able to move and step up, spin out. Don't they work on a lot of that stuff? How many practices y'all been to? Y'all seen how a quarterback got to learn how to escape? Well, you tell them they got that click in their, that timer in their head, where they got to get rid of the ball on football. I don't know. I don't want people to think that I want people to have concussions and brain damage and all the rest of that stuff. That's not what I'm
No,
saying.
but you're talking about a change that is arguably the most monumental change that we've ever seen in college football. Like, you're not allowed to hit the quarterback. That is what we're reading here, and that's you might as well put flags on them and put a red jersey on them like they do in practice when the guys that you're not allowed to hit them. That's what you should do in college football now. And so that's why it's so stunning to me that it just comes out, lazily on what's today, Wednesday? On a Wednesday, right before week one, and we're supposed to look at this and consume this and believe that this is actually what's going to happen. Like, this should be a buildup and should be argued and thought about for years before a decision like this comes out. So I'm just waiting for him to walk it back. I think you're going to see this walk back.
Look, how many flags you gonna have the first week, and the defensive lineman don't know what to do or how to do it. It's gonna change your landscape, or maybe how you recruit. Like you're only getting run stoppers now and not pass rushers. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find it like in the rule book that they've published.
Well, I did that too. I did that too because I saw that screen grab a few places.
What was
So
the? Can you give me
the rule number?
yeah, the rule number again?
2-27-14-8.
Okay.
Article 14.
Rule 2-27. So I guess that's section. Yeah, Rule 2, Section 27.
Article 14.
I think somebody made it up, man.
Mhm.
27, Article 14. A defensive player
I can't believe that's true.
is one who's, because of their physical position focus, especially vertical entry, okay. Oh yeah, no, somebody's. It's already like pre-highlighted in the PDF that I downloaded.
What does it say? The section A?
Yeah, Section A. In the act of or just after throwing a pass.
Can't be.
This includes an offensive player in a passing posture with focus downfield, like you said.
Can't be.
In the
Something's
act
up.
of throwing. What? So you can only. I don't get it. And how do you officiate that?
I'm telling you, there's something wrong, and it's going to. This isn't going to happen.
They also publish like a football case book, so maybe they got something in here. I don't know. Just kind of.
Well, most of the articles you see are about the transfer portal and the approval of the windows. And so when I go to the inside the NCAA, I go to the NCAA.com, I look at all this stuff. I see that about the transfer rules, and then these screen grabs of this rule popped up. But I've been, this just came out too. So it's one of those things that I've been digging into to see if it's real. It just doesn't make sense that this would be real.
So
So
late, and so yeah. I mean, it's kind of late. You gotta wait for it.
there's no, this would be, honestly, this would be akin to like changing the shape of the football or, bringing the football field and making it 120 yards or 60 yards wide. Like, this would be such a monumental change that this would be discussed more. So I think somebody put this out. I don't know where they got it from, but I don't buy it for a second, because if that's the way we're headed, if this is true, then I don't really even know how to analyze football anymore.
Well, I think we'll know this Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. It'll happen this Saturday if they're going to call it.
It'll
Well, I
happen
think
right
what we're
away.
going to hear is that somebody put this out there and tried to, fool everybody and
Fake
people.
news.
No, but it is written in the, like, if you go to the NCAA website, like ncaa.org, and you
Yeah.
download their rules for play for football, it is in there.
They got hacked. They get hacked. This can't be real. I'm telling you. I'm just.
May 2022.
May?
That's when it says that this document was published. It was May
Just
2022.
stuck that in. All right, well, let's just
Okay.
see what happens.
You know, for Kirby Smart being on the rules and like competition committee, that means he kind of dropped the ball on this one, didn't he?
Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you that this isn't true. It just there's something up. There's no my radar. I've been listen. George has been playing forever. I've been analyzing forever. This would be much bigger deal if this were actually passed and true, and this would be on the front of Sports Center. This would be on the front of ESPN. This would be blowing up everywhere because it's such a big change, and it's not. So I think somebody either took something that was put out there and maybe should have been redacted, or maybe something was to be discussed as a rule. But there's no way this is implemented the Wednesday before week one, and everybody's like, now we can't touch the quarterback. I'm telling you, there's no way this is. It can't
You're
be.
being nice. You're being nice. We're gonna call you on the 4th that Sunday. Right after the games, but there's 100 flags going up. But
It's
anyway.
yeah. Don't waste time on it because I'm telling you, this just isn't going to happen. It's just not.
Okay. Here's what I'm not going to waste my time on because I see. So those of you that are listening to the podcast afterwards and can't see the video, Mike Farrell has a bunch of helmets on his little cadenza or whatever you call it back there. I can't make out who they all are, but they're not an Alabama helmet.
Yeah, I see. This looks like a Vikings helmet, but it's not the right color. So maybe Augustana.
No, that's the Vikings.
Oh, okay.
It's a you know how they're bringing in new different helmets to the NFL finally.
Yeah.
So we got Vikings, Rams,
Bengals,
Falcons, Pitt Panthers in college football, the Jets. This is Arizona Chrome, but I'm looking over there at the real collection, and that's got Peyton Manning, Colts. It's got Tom Brady, Michigan. It's got a Cowboys one, but it's Roger Staubach. I don't know if you ever heard of that guy.
Nah.
He's pretty good. And then, I got Marino and others. I don't have an Alabama one. And so here's what I've asked colleges to do is send me your helmet. I'll put it in the backdrop, and I'll get it signed by somebody. But Alabama doesn't need their helmet in my backdrop. I don't think that's going to really help them win national championships, nor does Nick Saban give a crap about what helmets are behind me because he doesn't care about me whether I'm dead or alive. So I won't get an Alabama one. Let's put it that way.
Well, so let's jump into that. We're talking about Alabama and Nick Saban and what he has and recruiting. You know what I hear so much more about other teams and how they're recruiting. Not necessarily about Alabama, maybe just because we're spoiled or whatnot. But talk to me about this whole war between the in-state rivalry between Alabama and Auburn and the recruiting. Is that a close battle or not? Or is Alabama just that far ahead of it, or am I just not paying attention?
It has been over the years somewhat close, but I always tell people the difference between the number 1 recruiting class and the number 8 recruiting class in the country is astronomical. It's massive. So in the number 1 recruiting class, which Alabama has finished probably double-digit times under Nick Saban, you have
9
8
times.
to 10 5-stars. 9 times? Yeah. So he's almost double digits. 8 to 10 5-stars in that class, roughly. Sometimes 5 to 7, sometimes 8 to 11. Crazy numbers. And then, Auburn, if they finish in the top 10, which they have over the years, Gus, and even before him, Chiswick put together top 10 classes pretty regularly. You're talking about 1 or 2 5-star guys. So when you look at the Alabama roster, you see 5-stars everywhere. And you look at the Auburn roster and you see, Tank Bigsby, and maybe one other guy. So it's a huge difference. But a lot of people look at top 10 recruiting classes and equate them. So Alabama has been dominating this for a long time since Saban really hit home run with that 2007 class. And this year it's even more. Uh, I guess it's even more of a difference, and it's more of a domination because of the questions about Harson that everybody's using against Auburn. Is he going to be there? Can he win? They tried to get rid of him. All that negative recruiting that people say doesn't occur, it occurs. So I've got Alabama #1 in the SEC right now, and I've got Auburn right in the middle of the pack, around 10 or 11, and they've only got 8 commitments. And I think a lot of people are holding off on committing there because they want to see what Brian Harsin looks like in year 2.
Interesting. So who's 2 and 3 then? You got Alabama 1. Who you got in 2 and 3?
So Georgia, of course, and LSU. So there's the biggest recruiting advantage in the history of college football has always been LSU. They're the only big time program in that state, and that state is probably 5th or 6th overall when it comes to recruiting talent, and it has been forever. One of the next biggest advantages is Georgia, in the state of Georgia, because Georgia Tech does not get 4 and 5-star players, like, ever. Like Calvin Johnson was 100 years ago like a rare 4-star for Georgia Tech. So Georgia pretty much has their pick of the in-state guys, unless they're battling Alabama, LSU, Florida, and all these other schools, Clemson. So I've got LSU 2 and Georgia 3 right now. That's kind of interchangeable, but Alabama has a pretty good lead over both of them.
Hey, we're talking to Mike Farrell live out here at the Atlanta Street Grill and Tap House. You come out daily to get different drink and food specials. Right after we get done here tonight, guess what we're gonna have? We're gonna have some karaoke. I don't know, JT, if you sing.
No.
If you have a couple beers and you feel like you can show your skills and whatnot. But they do karaoke out here Wednesday through Sunday nights, 10 p.m. So if you're into that, you just want to come over and hang out and sing your heart out. JT knows about it, not about the karaoke, but about the places and setup that they have, because we actually tried to use their speakers one night and couldn't figure out how to. So I went and bought my own. Good Lord, I wish I could have the speakers. All right, so Mike, I'm out here in Texas. Me and JT are out here in Texas. And of course, there's a lot of Texas and OU fans out here that trying to figure out what their moves coming into the SEC.
Yeah.
Are they ready? Will they be ready? I don't know. Do they have to change their recruiting style? Is the play really that much different than they've had? Can they catch up? How many years is that technical really be, fully engulfed into the SEC?
They gotta win. That's more important. The recruiting style, they're gonna hit the Southeast more, obviously. And we saw, Charlie Strong attempt to do that at Texas because he was, very good at recruiting that area when he was at Florida and South Carolina and up at Louisville. They're going to have a better opportunity to win battles in the Southeast, and by that I mean Georgia, Alabama, Florida, into South Carolina. So it's going to expand the recruiting territory. As far as the strategy, they have to take care of their home state kids. I mean, you can't just go out and try to get everybody in the Southeast and ignore the state of Texas. Oklahoma recruits Texas extremely well. The biggest problem that they're going to have is winning. I mean, right now, both of them have top 10 recruiting classes. Oklahoma, Brent Venables is recruiting at Oklahoma as well as anybody since Bob Stoops back in the Adrian Peterson days. So it's really going well for him in this first year. And then Texas is getting the Arch Manning effect after he committed. They got numerous wide receivers, offensive linemen that committed. So their class is in the top 10 as well. But the problem is Oklahoma wins, and I think they will continue to win under Venables. Texas does not. So, it's not going to help Texas if they go to the SEC and they're still a middling program. It's actually going to hurt them because they're going to be competing against more and more schools in the SEC when it comes to recruiting. So I see success for Oklahoma, but I'm still waiting on Texas.
So they're going to be Texas A&M.
Well, yeah. And Texas A&M is not happy about this at all. They moved to the SEC. They were thrilled. We're the only state of Texas program. We can compete against LSU, but the rest of the programs have to come in and really beat us for home state kids. And then all of a sudden they get away from Texas, and then Texas just follows them to the SEC. This is going to hurt A&M recruiting. And Jimbo does a great job. Number one class last year. But what it's going to do is going to make everybody step up their game. It's going to make Texas and Oklahoma have to recruit at a little bit of a higher level, be more aggressive, and it's going to make Texas A&M have to work even harder because now they've got two programs that are either in their state or border their state that are going after the same kids.
So what about the NIL when it comes to this? Someone like Texas that got those deep pockets and boosters that can buy everything. I see you got a question down there, JT.
Yeah, so the question says, what about Michigan? How do they fit in the national picture this year? I love Donovan Edwards as the best NFL athlete in his draft class.
Yeah, Donovan Edwards is special just because of the way he can catch the football. They've got Blake Corum at running back, so they got a great 1-2 punch there. Donovan isn't even eligible for the 2023 draft. He was only a freshman last year, so he's still got 2 years left. Michigan recruiting is down, and I'll tell you why. It's because Jim Harbaugh
doesn't want to be there.
The NFL, and he wanted to take that Vikings job, and he expected to get that Vikings job offered to him, and it didn't happen. And he did it on signing day, and he didn't try to hide it from anybody. He was blatantly putting it out there that he was going to interview with the Vikings because Michigan reduced his salary. So Jimbo was like, "Okay, I'm gonna bring you to the playoff, but now you're going to pay for reducing my salary. I'm going to go to the NFL." And the NFL said, "Nah, we don't want you." So now these kids are lacking a little bit of trust in him. They lost 2 in-state quarterbacks, the 2024 kid, J.J. Carr, who's related to Lloyd Carr, to Notre Dame, and they lost Dante Moore, the best quarterback in the state of Michigan probably over the last 20 years. He's going to Oregon. So recruiting is down at Michigan, and it's really Harbaugh's fault. So now the good news, their schedule is easy as can be. Ohio State's tough. The rest of it, Michigan State, Penn State are okay. They should go 10-2 minimum, and that will help recruiting build back up. He's got to stop flirting with the NFL.
That's a great question. Who's that, Tommy?
Yes, Tommy Simmers.
Yeah, we appreciate you for checking in. And, that's a great question for him. So going back to the NIL stuff, I always try to figure out how this really equates to this whole formula of who can win the recruiting deal or not. And I think of someone like Texas who has a lot of money. I don't know if the boosters will do right and all that kind of stuff, but I watch what Miami's trying to do. They got I forget the guy's name.
Some billionaire. I don't even want to name him.
Yeah. These kind of things. I'm just wondering, not that Texas will go to be like that, but do they have enough influence to help them recruit and get some of at least the top guys in the States where they can capture that. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how does the NIL hit when it comes to this recruiting?
People still don't know yet. I have my theories on it. The first year of NIL, you can kind of throw it away. It was put into place last summer. Nobody really knew what they were doing. People threw a lot of money at a lot of kids, and they realized that they weren't getting a tremendous return on their investment. And I'm talking about the Spencer Rattlers of the world, DJ Uwangalele at Clemson, who didn't have a good season. Sam Howell regressed at UNC. De'Aaron King got hurt at Miami. A lot of the big names you hear about last year in NIL, short of Bryce Young, had colossal failures or step backs in their ability. Sam Howell was supposed to be the number 2 pick behind Rattler. He went in the 5th round. Rattler had to transfer. So millions of dollars were invested, and there's a bunch of Oklahoma signed helmets of Spencer Rattler in a landfill somewhere that nobody wants, nobody cares about. The transfer portal has changed everything. So everybody's sort of being a little bit more patient with it. We're going to see NIL in about 5 years really make a huge impact. It's made a small impact. Obviously, the A&M class last year finishing number one. There's no coincidence that's the first time they finished number one ever, and NIL was in play. And Saban called Jimbo out on that, and Jimbo responded. And I get all that. I think Texas is in good shape with NIL again if they win. But Deion Sanders just came out last week and he said something extremely interesting to players, and players listen to Deion. And I don't think it's going to change because money supersedes anything Deion Sanders can tell you. But he said the eye on the prize is the NFL. So if Alabama, which Tuscaloosa's okay for NIL, not great. If they keep winning national championships, producing first rounders, kids are going to gravitate towards that because the big payoff is the NFL. It's not NIL. It's not some small little $100,000 deal in college. It's millions and millions of dollars in a career. So I think Texas has an NIL advantage, but they have to win again. It all comes down to winning. If they go 5-7 again, nobody's going to care about where they are, what conference they're going to. They're going to care about development. They had no players drafted in this last draft, none. And that is hard to do. I could run Texas for 4 years and put guys in the NFL. So really, NIL is going to help the Miamis and Texas and USC's of the world, but only if they win.
No point. You just making me think about this Alabama Texas game coming up in 2 weeks. I hope it is good, but whatever. That's just me. Because I'm talking a lot of trash out here with all my Texas buddies. So, matter of fact, we got Michael Finley coming on to the show next week. That was a good package for Texas. And JT, we're going to have Jonathan Scott out here. Because he was a stud offensive lineman for Texas. And I think he played 13 years in the National Football League. So it's gonna be me against them. Man. Just hyping up the game and seeing what we can do. Okay, so
well, you know Alabama's going to win that game by 40, right?
40.
40.
I wasn't doing that.
That's a lot of points.
Texas is just going to get rolled. It's not a good matchup for them. Their offensive line is questionable. The defense is still suspect. They've got Xavier Worthy. They got Bijan Robinson. They got Quinn Ewers. They got talent. But Alabama is so loaded this year when it comes to offensive, defensive, depth, pass rushing, all of this stuff. I just think it could be a monumental crush to Steve Sarkisian's hopes of maintaining momentum in Texas. That's just my feeling.
Hey, JT, please make sure you mark those 2 spots. Let me send that. I just need that part where you said, Alabama's going to win by 40. I need to text that to everybody.
All right.
Go ahead. I don't think it matters. I don't. I mean, Ohio State's going to win by 30 this weekend. You can text that to every Notre Dame player you want, but there's no way they can stop that offense and slow that down. It's just, it doesn't matter. Locker room stuff I get, but in college football, this isn't the NFL. College football, the disparity in talent is so great at times. It doesn't matter how motivated you are. If that other team that's more talented is motivated, and we know Nick Saban's team is never going to come out flat, they are going to put their foot on the ground, and they're just going to run away from Texas.
So with that, who would you say, and I know it's all subjective, I'm asking for your opinion, I guess. The top 3 offenses in the SEC this year will be who?
Alabama. When you have so much depth at running back, I mean, they got Jahmyr Gibbs from Georgia Tech. They've got
Roydell.
They got Roydell. They got Jace. They got. I mean, you
Trey
you
Sanders
name it.
Behind that.
Trey is 4th string. Trey's on my portal watch because he's 4th string at Alabama. And Trey is a former 5-star. He had, of course, a couple unfortunate injuries, car accident. But when you got a 5-star as your 4th string, The wide receivers, they brought in Harrell, they brought in Burton. They have young guys there. They got a great tight end. The offensive line's going to be set. They stole the best offensive lineman from Vanderbilt. Bryce Young is Bryce Young. We saw what he could do last year. I
without
just
an
don't think
offensive line.
you can't really compare another offense. Now, the second offense is Tennessee. I really like
Okay.
what they've got going there with Hendon Hooker and his development. And Heupel is a very good play caller, and they're extremely dangerous. And I have Mississippi State third just because of what Mike Leach does and what
Hmm.
Rogers can do in that system. And they have a sneaky amount of talent. They're going to be
Interesting.
scary. A lot of people would have Ole Miss.
I
Okay,
think I would have either went Ole Miss or Arkansas.
but their quarterback situation is not set. I mean, Dart hasn't come in there and hit the ground running as many people expected, and he was really supposed to be the key to replacing Matt Corral. So I think they might have a few quarterback problems. I've got Ole Miss as my number two team in the West because I think they're going to be better defensively. But offensively, I really think that Mississippi State, with what Mike Leach does, they're going to put up 50 a game. The problem is they could give up 56. But that offense is nasty, and if Rogers has got it, he's got it down. It's a quick decision offense. Get the ball out. Don't make mistakes. But I really like what Tennessee's doing offensively. I think they're number two, but I just can't find anybody that's better than Alabama on offense.
Okay. I understand. You got me smiling over here. I'm over here about to start waving to the box and be like, hey, come on. Oh man, that's good stuff. So I saw you put on the site, you know, and please make sure you guys go check that out. Mike Farrell's cool stuff out. Because always looking to see who's trending. I like that word that you put. Hey, they're trending up. They're trending up. What are you measuring, or what are you looking at when you say, hey, they're trending? Did they just land somebody really good, or they just seeing some movement? You know, what kind of measurables do you have for that?
Are we talking teams?
Yes.
I look at roster talent. I mean, I think roster talent is probably the most important thing in college football. We saw what Kirby Smart was able to do last season, break through, win a first Georgia national championships in 1980, and it's because the roster had so much depth and there was so much talent. There was a question at quarterback at the beginning. Stetson Bennett stepped up, but he was more effective at the end. But him and JT Daniels were more game managers. That defense is really what won them football games. So when you're talking about step up and potential, I look at recruiting classes. So when I was doing recruiting class rankings, and I still do, but I started in the late 1990s. Our first number one team that really stood out to me was Texas with Vince Young. They won a national championship. Then it went into USC with the Pete Carroll years. They won a national championship. Then it went to Urban Meyer and Florida, and they had number one classes. They won two national championships. Then it was Nick Saban. Then it was Kirby Smart. So now that Jimbo Fisher has his first, if he continues to recruit at that top three level, Texas A&M is the team that you look for based on history and all the analytics that could make the step up to be a national championship. Not this year. They got quarterback issues. I mean, Haynes King is good, but he's injury prone. And Zach Johnson's solid, but he's not great. But in a couple of years, when Connor Wegman takes over and that defense starts to come together from that recruiting class last year, Texas A&M is the team that I think is the most scary when it comes to up and coming.
Okay. Okay. JT, I gotta digress because I didn't let you answer the question I posed at the beginning of the show. But let me give another shout out to Ladder Street Grill, the Tap House, loving the Calvin over there, having a good time. They do have the NFL Sunday ticket out here where you can watch your favorite teams every week. They do like to, I see that old gig. Come on, Pat Parker, man.
What did he say?
Now he's out there with a giggle. He knows.
Listen, they got talent.
Yeah. But you can watch your
So does
favorite teams
Texas.
out here every week. That's right. That's right.
Not as much.
They do have a banquet room available out here for you to have private parties if you wish as well. So make sure you come along and visit out to 11th Street Grill at 6205 Court Road. It's at the corner of Spring Creek and Coit in Plano. So JT, I need everyone to know, did you ever get Blindside, did you ever get one of the pillbox blocks when you're on defense or you were running back and you just didn't see the guy and wham?
No,
Yeah,
I since I played free in the defense, in the type of the defense and the era that I played in, I didn't get blindsided very often. I don't ever remember actually getting blindsided. I do remember getting hit hard, but I always those were always I was just get hit in the face. Um, those were ones that I saw coming and knew they were going to be very uh, life changing hits. I can remember one actually like swallowing my mouthpiece and choking it back up when Stanley hit me. I was playing running back, just going off tackle, and thought the guy had blocked him. Stanley just ragdolled my right tackle out of the way and hit me in the face, broke my face mask, had me swallow a mouthpiece.
You don't want to do that.
well,
And
you got good insurance now, so you can.
I would have said I got blindsided on a punt return, but I didn't because I looked down and I saw it. Yeah, so I didn't get muff the punt, but also got hit. So
Well, I did get blindsided. I told this story earlier today on one of my staff meetings. It was at Alabama, and we were playing against Tennessee, the Vols, and they ran some kind of, the look off screens where they try to make a run away and throw the screen back the other way, that kind of thing. And yeah, I was running the wrong way. And when I turned around to go pursue the ball, Mr. Tight End was there, just there waiting for me. Bam, bam. I never saw him. I landed on the back of my head. My feet were above it. It was just, it wasn't a good feeling at all. I wasn't able to get up and continue playing, but I didn't ever want to go through that again. So I started taking the keep your eyes on the swivel a whole lot. It meant a whole lot more to me after that deal because being on national television against the balls and you can hear the crowd. Did you ever hear the crowd just go boom or oh
Oh, that's what they
something?
do. Oh, like,
Yeah.
oh, and they're doing that for your family. They're not doing that for you. They're doing that for your family because you're dead. They're like, oh no.
Yeah. So, anyway,
But you've done it to people more than you've got it done to. So
I'm trying to pride myself on being able to do that. I thought that was the best way to try to hit a running back. I would always try to hide behind a linebacker or something. That's why my left shoulder hurts now because I always
uh,
want to sneak
back when you were allowed to hit too, you aren't allowed to hit
up.
anymore. So
Okay, so we got about 10 minutes. Um, what do you think about the transfer rules and has it hurt high school recruits?
yes, it's hurt them quite a bit. So today the NCAA with that release about the transfer portal windows, um, they smartly finally, and I never say the word smart with the NCAA together,
that's
but
hard to
they
do.
smartly turned down the unlimited transfer proposal. So what this was is, back in the day, if you wanted to transfer, you had to go to your school and they had to give you permission to do so, and you had to get that permission to sit out a year, 2 years if you were going in conference, and they could also pick the schools. Oh, you can go to these schools, but you can't go to these. And now with the new transfer portal and the rules, you can become immediately eligible, which is great. I think this should always be like if a coach can leave anytime, then a player should be able to leave anytime. You shouldn't be restricted. Um, but you're not going to be able to do it 6 times and not have any sort of penalty of sitting out a year. But high school, this is what's happened to colleges. Colleges are now holding back scholarships for the portal, um, and they have propped up administrative sections of their football office directly in charge of roster management and player personnel, and looking at the portal on a daily basis. And who's paying for this are high school football players. So that some of those high school football players that would go FBS are being replaced by veteran players from FCS, smaller FBS schools, sometimes parallel moves like Jordan Addison from Pitt to USC. Um, and now those kids are going to FCS, which isn't bad. I mean, and now they have to earn it from FCS, get in the portal and go. So the new high school recruiting right now is essentially half portal, half high school. So instead of 25 kids in a class that come out of the high school ranks, and I'm just using that number because it's a nice round number, you'll have maybe 18, and you'll save 6 scholarships for portal kids. And that's going to hurt those kids that used to get a couple offers. Let's say a kid in Mississippi used to get a Mississippi State offer, and maybe get a Houston offer, maybe get a Memphis offer. He might not get any of those now because those schools are holding back for the portal, and he's going to end up going off to FCS. So it's hurting them in a great, great way. But I don't see an argument against it. How can you argue against these kids being able to move from school to school when coaches can do it anytime they want?
No, I understand that, and I agree. I just feel bad, being in the high school realm, with the number of scholarships that they're being offered are going down. I just hope our parents are being educated enough to understand.
Well, I
I
do.
mean,
I do advisory. I do advisory to kids too, and I tell them FCS is not a bad offer now. It used to be. Remember, you didn't want an FCS offer because you wanted to go to FBS. FCS not a bad offer. You take that. You have success at the FCS level. They'll find you at Power Five. But it is sad. It's diminishing the ability of high school kids to get that opportunity.
And there you have it. So I don't know, man. Just the world of football is changing so much. I just don't even know how to take it. Can y'all say something to Calvin about these Ravens and these banners up here? Do you think we can change this stuff to Cowboys or yeah, he's looking at me kind of funny. Anyway, okay. So I only have one more question for you. It's really, and I don't know if I'm reading this depth chart right. JT sent me over when they kind of hit the depth chart of the Alabama depth chart.
Oh yeah, there were a couple surprises on there to me. Maybe not to other people who's been following it more closely than I have, but
no, you're reading it right. I know who you're going to ask about. Go ahead.
Well, I want to hear what JT's deal is first. So, what surprised you, JT?
I think the biggest surprise for me, and I'm trying to pull it back up, but my link's not working. But I think the biggest surprise to me was that Terrion Arnold had actually overtaken Kyrie Jackson. Potentially. I mean, I know it's an or, but
I love Terrion. I love Terrion. So Terrion Arnold. So here's a kid that was going to commit to Florida in the early signing period and decided to wait. And a lot of people, including myself, thought he was waiting to get more attention because he's a Florida kid. Florida kids love attention. I thought he was a prima donna. And I tweeted something about it. And he was more mature than me, more professional than me. He DM'd me and he said, Mr. Farrell, I really take offense to what you said. I'm not doing this for attention. I just don't know where I want to go yet. And Terrion ended up going to Alabama in the end. And I got complete respect for him after that because most kids either block me or they call me a whatever name you can think of when I say stuff like that. He's a very mature kid. He's a very patient kid. He's extremely talented when it comes to skill, ability, speed. It doesn't shock me. I think the one that shocked me the most is Eli Ricks not being the starting quarterback. But Kool-Aid McKinstry being listed as number one cornerback there with Terrion. Eli Ricks is going to play, and they play a lot of 6D back scheme there, especially on long distance. But what I heard is Eli Ricks didn't pick up the defense as quickly as they expected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you hit on my point. And you're right. I guess you knew what I was going to ask about Eli Ricks didn't crack the starting position. I guess with the amount of hype I saw around him, I thought he might make his way in. But if you don't know the playbook, if you're busting coverages and all that kind of stuff, then you can't.
I don't think it's going to matter. I think Eli's grown up a lot. Like Eli wanted to transfer from LSU to Ohio State a year ago. and it was kind of an immature decision because he wasn't cornerback one. Derek Stingley was getting all the attention. The Eli Ricks I know now is much more mature than that. He's focused. He went to Alabama to learn from the GOAT, from Nick Saban, the DB guru of the world. He's going to take this and he's going to not just, oh, I'm jumping in the portal or I'm out of here. He's not going to prima donna this. He's going to work even harder. The big question about Eli is flat out speed. But his instincts are off the charts. So I think this is going to be good for him. I think he's going to take this and he's going to really use this as fuel to become that top 15, top 20 first rounder next year. It's him and Kaylee Ringo are the top two corners on most people's boards. And I think Eli Ricks is going to take this personally and it's going to really motivate him.
All right. I've got a few other wrinkles on here. I've got it pulled up in front of me. Things that surprised me a little bit. This one's not terribly surprising, considering how last year went. But Branch being the starter for Star over Malachi Moore, I kind of thought it was just because Malachi was a little banged up. But that job seems to be won outright. Trayshawn Holden over Ja'Cory Brooks. That switch was made. And then the biggest one for me, there's another one. Prentice being named as a starter in the slot, who's a freshman, over Christian Leary. And then this is the one that is actually the most surprising to me, is Randolph being the left guard, which I think that was number 89 from last year that they just couldn't figure out what to do with. The one that you didn't really like. Yeah, the big tight end that you were like, couldn't block. So he's starting left guard.
First world problems, man. That's what these are. These are first world problems because Javian Cohen is a guy who's considered by most to be a top 50 offensive lineman in college football, maybe a third rounder in the NFL, and he's your backup guard now. Mm-hmm. You're talking about Malachi Moore. NFL scouts have him in the 3 to 4 range, and he's your backup star. It's disgusting. This depth chart's disgusting. That's what it is. It's just it's gross. It's so good. It's unfair.
No, I wouldn't go with unfair.
Unfair?
I don't know what you mean by that.
This is unbelievable, though. I mean, look at JV, and Georgia's similar. Let me talk about Georgia a little bit here too, because I don't want to think that everybody thinks I'm an Alabama homer or whatever just because I'm on here with Georgia. Georgia has offensive linemen, okay, like that are potential first rounders that are backups. And I mean, Amarius Mims won that guard job, I think. But they've got, Chad Lindbergh, Warren Erickson, not a first rounder, but second or third rounder that are backups. They're so deep at certain positions. They're tight ends. Okay, their third string tight end is Eric Gilbert. And that dude is
a monster.
A freak. He just can't get his stuff off the field straight. But when you're talking about Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington, and then Eric Gilbert as your tight ends, it's really kind of an embarrassment of riches. So when you look at roster talent, which is most important to me, Ohio State, the same thing. Ohio State's depth chart is ridiculous. There's such a difference between Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, and the rest of the country that I cannot see anybody outside those 4 teams winning the national title this year.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. They know you're not a homer. That you do a really good job of covering everybody. We do appreciate you guys. Make sure that you guys go find him on Twitter too. He puts out a lot of great information. He's not biased. He just gives the facts and the things that he sees. He's studying things of that nature. You can find him at M Farrell Sports. That's FARRELL Sports at M Farrell Sports, or you can go to his webpage at MikeFarrellSports.com.
I tell you who I am a homer though for is the Cowboys. And when you asked me to do this podcast, normally I don't like doing podcasts. I'm not a big podcast person. But when I saw it was you and you hit TO on that star, I had to do it. I was like, I'm a big Cowboys fan, and that was a moment for Cowboy Nation. So I'm a homer when it comes to the NFL for sure.
Well, I appreciate it very much. I appreciate it much. I'm a Cowboy homer too. I'm kind of persuaded JT a little bit. My wife. JT's not a homer. How do you describe yourself? He is a homer, but he's very
Cynical.
hard. Yeah, he's
Oh,
very
I'm
hard.
cynical too. I think they suck. But I'm a Cowboy fan. I mean, I'm disappointed. They sucked at the playoffs last year. Dak was horrible. Zeke's running out of tread on the tires. They got a lot of problems, but I'm still a Cowboy fan. It's been a long time. It's been a really, really long time that we won.
The last thing before we go there. So, how do you guys feel about the move? Just when you see it on paper or whatnot, they cut both of the backup quarterbacks. Yeah, when you saw that, what did you?
Who's going to throw the ball? I mean, Dak is fragile. He got hurt. Like, who's going to throw the ball?
Well, this doesn't surprise me because they got rid of their swing tackle in Terrence Steele. They got rid of Lyle Collins, who they sent to the Browns or the Bengals, I think. And then, like, knowing that everything about Tyron Smith at this moment in time is made of glass.
So he's gonna get hurt.
Yes. I mean, he hasn't he hasn't played a full season in like 5 seasons. So to not have an actual backup for him is
Typical
irresponsible.
Typical Cowboys.
I guess they knew that they weren't good enough that anybody was going to pick them up off waivers. Apparently, Cooper couldn't be picked up off waivers. I hadn't learned that rule yet.
Well, they're not. Neither of them are very good. I mean, Cooper's not great, and Will Greer's not good. So I get that, but I mean, they're going to sign a free agent quarterback or sign one of those guys. It's just typical Cowboys, though. I mean,
no, they did bring them both back. So they brought them both back. They've signed them both to the practice squad. They're going to have to pull one of those from the practice squad.
Nothing surprises me about the Cowboys. That's all I'm saying.
No, there's probably somebody. They might could have got Kellen Mond or some of the other guys.
Kellen Mond.
No, he signed with Cleveland. So, and I loved Kellen Mond in high school. I was the only one who thought he was a 5-star. I thought he was going to be Deshaun Watson, and then Jimbo let me down and didn't develop him. He never got a clock, and he never got accuracy. But he was a really, really good high school quarterback, and then he just never developed. A&M doesn't develop players for the NFL lately when it comes to skill guys. And then he goes off to Minnesota, and he's typical Kellen Mond, can't hit the side of a barn. But Cleveland just signed him because they're desperate for a quarterback.
JT, he sounds like a guy's name.
Tim.
Tim was so much of Kellen Mond coming on Texas A&M.
I was wrong.
No. Tim hated Kellen Mond.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, that was
He
smart.
just an A&M lover.
That was smart. No, A&M fans hated Kellen Mond, and I was wrong to rank him as high as he was. He was so frustrating because when he put it together, I mean, his release sucked, and he had the whole ear release and all that old-fashioned football in his head. But when he was on, man, he really made some great plays against. I mean, we saw him against Alabama a couple times, but just so inconsistent. He was just, and yeah, the Browns took him. I don't know why.
Well, there it is. Mike Farrell, we thank you very much for coming on. He is the godfather of recruiting. Check him out on social media, on his website. Get all the knowledge that you can from him. Don't get mad at him, players, if he's talking bad about you just a little bit. He's just trying to shoot the truth and make sure that you get better every single day, like he just made Teague take a little bit better. It meant a lot. It means a lot for us to come onto the show, spit your knowledge. I know our guests really, really appreciate it, specifically. So thank you for spending this hour with us, brother.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Anytime. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Yeah, we'll see you around. So appreciate it very much.
All right. See you.
Yep. So make sure you guys give us the likes and the comments and all the stuff. Hit that bell on YouTube so you know we're coming up again. Like I said, next week we're gonna have Jamaica Finley on, Joe Scott. Me and JT will be here to talk Alabama and Texas football. Yeah, if he's gonna really win that game, are we really gonna beat them by 40 points, JT? That's pretty.
Yeah, 40 is a lot.
Down there at their place at 11th a.m. It's gonna be hot. But I'll be in the house. I am gonna go. I guess you'll be at a football game. You're at the Catholic Bowl at about 1:30 on Saturday the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be in Austin, so I have to get the update from somebody. On how that goes. But it was great having him on. And, it was good being out here at the Leonard and Plano, 6205 Court Road in Plano. Man, come out, get your drinks, get your food, come do some karaoke here in a little bit. Come out on Sundays, watch the NFL Sunday Ticket. You want to do private parties, you could get your private room. And it's the spot that I end up being at a lot because it's right up the street from JP2, as a matter of fact. So this is a place I like to come out and decompress a little bit. We've been friends of the organization for a little while. Sooner or later, I'm going to get Calvin to become a Cowboys fan instead of a Ravens fan. Once I get that done, it'll be all good. It'll be all good. Yeah, so, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to be back next week with some guests, so make sure you let them know that if they want to come out and get some autographs, some pictures with some legends. Next Wednesday, 8 p.m. at the Leonard. We'll be here. JT, you get back to that little baby. Have a good time. I'm gonna go have me a cold Diet Coke and and head to the house. So with that, I'm gonna say deuces. Let's get out of here.